Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Daily Manhwas, and I hope you enjoy this video. This is the next part of Doom Summoner. If you already have watched the part 1, you can skip to this minute. This story begins in an apocalyptic world. Our protagonist is called Wenyu. He was a level 4 warrior, who had been assigned to a mission at the moment he joined a team. But during the fight they were betrayed by the main team to act as bait for the level 5 mutant beast. The protagonist prepares to attack the monster, but is killed by the monster as it was much stronger. But life gives him a second chance, and he wakes up a year before his death, just the day the apocalypse began. The protagonist thinks that this time he was not going to let anyone use him. He wanted to control his destiny himself. Being the first day of the apocalypse and zombie outbreak, he wanted to prepare ahead of time to avoid being bait like in his previous life. When suddenly a zombie appears. Zombies were humans with bodies corrupted by magical energy, and their only weakness was their magical core. But thanks to the fact that the protagonist had prepared himself, he takes his weapon to defend himself. Normally the location of the magic energy core were usually different for each zombie, but thanks to the knowledge and experience of his previous life, it was a piece of cake for the protagonist to find the energy cores. In an instant he finds the core of the zombie and kills it. After killing the zombie he gets 1 point. The apocalypse was coming and the whole world was going to collapse. The normal money was going to be reduced to disposable paper. The new law of the jungle now reigned. And with this, a point redemption system had been created based on the trading pillar. Points could not be traded, they could only be obtained by killing monsters or zombies. When a survivor touched the exchange pillar, he or she could use the points to purchase various items, or switch to one of the 3 main classes. He could choose between being a warrior, an archer, or a wizard. After the change of class, the physical condition was twice as strong as that of a normal human. There were also hidden classes, with a mysterious and much greater power than the normal classes, but these were almost impossible to obtain. In the previous life, the protagonist hid at home and wasted time, instead of earning points at the initial stage. But this time he wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, and he wanted to accumulate 10 points, to then go to an exchange pillar to change to the class of a warrior. The protagonist leaves the room and is surrounded by a couple of zombies. He prepares to face them, quickly kills a zombie and gets another point, when suddenly another zombie appears from behind, but thanks to his reflexes he manages to kill the zombie and earns another point. But he gets hurt because his physical strength was very low. He wanted to change classes as quickly as possible to improve his physical strength. So he quickly defeats the remaining zombies and gets 10 points. Just as he was about to leave to find the exchange pillar, a stray dog that had mutated thanks to the outbreak of the apocalypse appears. The protagonist thinks he has no chance against the beast because he had not yet changed his class. So he starts to run away from the beast, but the beast was much faster than the protagonist. The beast takes a leap and manages to bite him in one of the legs, and throws it with enormous force. The protagonist falls near a store, but the beast had no intention of attacking further, it just wanted to keep him away from the store as a portal to the treasure land had been opened. The treasure land were portals that appeared very rarely. No one had been able to decipher the pattern of their appearance. The duration of their existence varied greatly, but if you managed to get into one of these lands you had a chance to get something superior to an exchange pillar. The earlier you enter, the rarer and more powerful the items will be. The beast had discovered the portal and did not want the protagonist to go near it. But only humans could enter these portals. The beast realizes that the protagonist was interested in the portal, so starts attacking him, and manages to bite him on one of his arms. The protagonist grabs his dagger and starts stabbing the beast. When the beast suffers damage, it bites even harder and rips off his arm. The protagonist quickly moves away from the beast, and remembers that he could heal his wounds if he leveled up. He was badly wounded and his only option for survival was to enter the portal. The beast realizes this and begins to attack. The protagonist dodges the attack with a jump and heads towards the portal. Just as he was about to enter, the beast managed to bite his leg. So, in desperation, he cuts off his leg and enters the portal. Upon entering the treasure land, he comes across a chest. So he opens the chest and inside he finds a scroll for a hidden class. Hidden classes were not always more powerful than normal classes, but their abilities were stronger than those of normal classes. The protagonist touches the scroll and all his wounds are healed, and he changes his class to the Master of Souls. He obtains a unique ability called Realm of Souls. Every time the protagonist levels up, he will receive a new soul realm. Thanks to his class change, he gets a soul pet. This beast of souls had 2 skills. The first one, Soul Strike S rank passive skill. Each attack of the protagonist will damage the soul of the enemies. The damage effect will depend on the difference between the enemy's attribute and the host. The second ability allowed the pet to merge its attributes with those of its user, and each pet could bless the user with one of its own abilities. The combined basic attributes exceed those of the other classes. The protagonist thinks that with this alone he could crush his companions in the future. Even for the hidden classes, this class was very powerful. The protagonist goes through the portal to return. On his return, he encounters the beast. He thanks the beast, and as a token of gratitude he was going to send it to hell as soon as possible. The beast attacks him, the protagonist dodges and attacks back, but it didn't hurt him much because his body was very hard. So he changes his combat form and attacks the beast again. Now his first S rank ability called Soul Strike is activated, and the beast starts taking damage to its soul. The protagonist ends up fainting when he sees that the beast is no longer moving and starts to leave. But the beast begins to rise, and his ability called Growth gets activated. This was an S rank ability. It allowed the beast to increase his physical form exponentially and his growth rate. Both the beast and the protagonist were level 1. But now the difference between the two was very big due to the fact that the beast had an S rank ability that allowed it to increase his potential unlimitedly. The protagonist thinks that he had no chance against the beast, so he quickly moves away and starts escaping from the store and closes the door tightly, trapping the beast inside. That mutant beast was too strange. The more damage it received, the stronger it became. But it was strange since he doesn't remember any such ability in his past life. The protagonist remembers that on the third day of the apocalypse, a large treasure land appeared in Giant Jibin Park. This treasure room houses the Dark Book, a super rare ability, the Grade F Protection Jade, and other high-quality items. As he had been reborn, he could fight for these opportunities to become even stronger. But that treasure land was very dangerous, so he decided to go to an exchange pillar first. As he passed through his neighborhood, he saw that it had already fallen completely. There was no other way to get to the pillar, so he had to go through the crowd of zombies. He defeats several zombies, and this draws the attention of the other zombies. But these were no match for the protagonist, as he was the master of souls. In this life, no one could stop him. After fighting for several minutes, he is able to eliminate all the zombies and finally reaches the exchange pillar. He touches the pillar and he is teleported inside. Upon entering the exchange pillar, he sees that nothing had changed. He thought there would be powerful items at the beginning of the apocalypse. He had several wounds from the fight against the zombies, so he starts looking for a healing potion. But he couldn't buy good items because they require a lot of points. For now, he could only afford basic healing potions. He buys a basic potion and drinks it. All his wounds starts to disappear. With his remaining points, he decides to buy a magic crystal with no level 1 attributes. This magic crystal without attributes was used to evolve the qualities of a level 1 class. During the strengthening process, the skills that will appear will be different depending on the proportion of magic crystals used. If all of them are upgraded with magic crystals without attributes, they will become the worst of the 5 skills. These magic crystals do not affect the protagonist, as he could not add more skills. After using the crystal, his physical aptitude had increased by about 0.5 times. With a better weapon, he could improve his combat power. But he didn't have enough points in the exchange pillar, so he couldn't even get a good product. He had 2 days to search for weapons before the portal opened in Jiangbin Park. So he picked up a couple of weapons in an abandoned store. He had some skills less than the common classes. If he fought melee without switching to his combat form, he would take a lot of damage. He wanted to look for weapons with greater lethality so he could strengthen his soul pet. When suddenly he heard someone calling for help. The ones asking for help were 2 brothers who were surrounded by zombies. The older brother saw that if they did nothing, they were going to be eaten by the zombies. He tells his sister to stay behind and that he was going to take care of the zombies. He picks up a weapon and advances towards the zombies, but is hit by one of the zombies and falls to the ground. His sister desperately tries to help him. Just as the zombie was about to devour them, the protagonist appears and with his axe kills the zombie. They were surprised that he was able to kill the zombie with only 1 hit. More zombies appears. The protagonist starts killing them very easily because he was now much stronger. The 2, seeing how strong the protagonist was, begins to follow him. The man thanks the protagonist for saving their lives. The protagonist tells them to be careful in the future as he starts leaving to look for weapons and useful equipment. The girl yells at him and tells him that she knew a place with many weapons. This place was at the police station on Manhua Street. But the entire police station was surrounded by zombies. The protagonist rushes to the scene upon hearing this. Once he arrives at the police station, giant rats begin to appear. The protagonist realizes that something is going to happen, so he decides to observe first, so he climbs a pole and then a building. As he climbs up, he sees how the rats and zombies were fighting each other, and he wondered if someone in the police station had attracted so many zombies. While the rats were holding back the zombies, he approached the police station. The zombies were about to enter the police station. The remaining policemen did not know what to do because if they did nothing, the zombies were going to enter soon. The officer Wang tells them that he wanted to confront the zombies just so he could avenge his daughter's death. The bar is holding the zombies back break and they begin to enter. The officer draws his gun but cannot fire because he was paralyzed with fear. Just as the zombie was about to attack the officer, he was attacked by an thrown axe. This axe was thrown by the protagonist. He starts killing the zombies who tried to enter. While killing the zombies, he gets a lot of points. In total, he had almost 1,000 points. The cops were impressed by how he had slaughtered so many zombies. The two policemen run away, but the officer decided to stay behind. The officer wanted to revenge the death of his daughter, who was killed by a mutant rat. He had been the one who had lured the zombies to the police station. His plan was for the zombies and the rats to clash, but in the end the rats did not die but became stronger. He was desperate, but with the appearance of the protagonist he had another chance to revenge his daughter. So he tells him that he will lure all the rats to him, then ignite the dynamite and blow up all the rats. He tells him that the boss rat was in the warehouse and all the other rats were his henchmen. The officer picks up the dynamite and goes to the warehouse among the crowd of rats. Some rats attack him but are cut down by the protagonist. The officer manages to enter the warehouse and encounters the Rat King, which was a level 2 mutant creature. It ignites the dynamite and generates a huge explosion. The explosion was quite strong, almost all the rats were dead. Many magical attribute crystals exploded. He takes a dual attribute of beast and fire from the floor and uses it. The power of the crystal is absorbed by his pet. The protagonist thanks the officer. Seeing that there was still movement in the warehouse, the protagonist heads towards it. As he approaches, the king rat emerges from the rubble, and also the officer, who was still alive because the rat stopped part of the explosion. The king rat attacks him, but he quickly dodges the attack. The protagonist sees that the king rat had been injured by the explosion, so he activates his S-rank ability called Soul Strike, and his eyes begin to glow. Shoot a laser beam through the eyes, severely wounding the rat. He approaches the rat and gives it the final blow with his axe. By killing the rat, he gets 153 points. Seeing the officer alive, he gives half of the attribute crystals to the officer he had collected earlier. The protagonist leaves the police station and heads towards Jongbin Park. He opens his statistics tab and sees that he could now enter the treasure land, as he had reached the level 1 peak and had accumulated more than 1,000 points. When a lion suddenly appears, it attracts the crowd of zombies in the area and eliminates them with a powerful attack. This lion was named Simba. In the last life of the protagonist, Simba dominated the whole city. Not even level 3 and 5 monsters could hurt him. The protagonist had not heard of Simba at the portal site. He wondered if everyone present had died. So he starts looking for some zombies to earn points and also to prevent Simba from finding him. Meanwhile, another group of survivors wanted to take advantage of the occasion, as most of the zombies were being attracted by the lion. But several of them were not sure if they were going to find anything in the portal. So one of them shows them that he had previously found a silver vortex in a chest in one of the portals. When suddenly this vortex is activated and opens the portal. While the protagonist was killing zombies, he sees the portal appear on top of a building. So moving stealthily across the rooftops, he reaches the portal and enters it. Apparently, this portal had attracted the attention of the beast that the protagonist had faced earlier. Upon entering the portal, he discovers that there were already survivors inside. One of the survivors wanted to attack the protagonist, but the leader tells them not to do so, as they were in a challenge portal. Killing people on this portal was restricted. Knowing that they couldn't attack him, the protagonist did not want to let them escape if they found a valuable object. The challenge is activated and had several rules. It was not allowed to attack each other. Those who break this rule will be teleported back. Survivors could enter the challenge arena through the stone pillars, and the difficulty increased with each stage. The person who passes the highest difficulty will receive the ultimate treasure. One of the survivors touches the stone and the first level challenge begins. In the first level, normal zombies appeared. The treasure lands had their own risks. There were those who were friendly and gave rewards, those who were vicious and killed people, and those who had an extreme preference for killing. The protagonist had good luck in finding a friendly one. The difficulty was concentrated on the last level. The survivor eliminates the zombie and as a reward gets a grade F sidewalk sword. So he decides to advance to the next level. In level 2, several zombies appear and attack him, but he defeats them too. As a reward, he gets an F grade protective suit and advances to the next level. On the level 3, a giant zombie appears. This was a zombie with 4 attributes. The zombie attacks the survivor with a quick strike. Seeing that he was no match for the zombie, the survivor decides to surrender. Now it was the protagonist's turn. He enters the pillar and activates the challenge. The other survivors planned to kill the protagonist when he came out of the portal. The protagonist manages to pass level 1 in a very easy way. He advances to the next level and also defeat the zombies in an instant. Reaches the level 3 with the giant zombie and with a quick move dodges his attack and kills it. By killing the zombie, he gets a bottle of healing potion. The other survivors were surprised to see his speed and strength. He now had 20 attribute points, and a single zombie with 4 attribute points was an appetizer for him. After advancing several levels, he reaches the level 8. He had achieved several rewards. The first is a protective jade of rank F. This allows you to counter 100 full-strength attacks from creatures. The second was a space movement scroll. This allows him to teleport over a long distance. And the third reward was a space ring. This could store any object. The other survivors thinks that he was probably cheating. Suddenly the challenge 9 begins without getting the chance asking the protagonist if he wants to continue. When he turns around he sees a giant door. This door was the gateway to the demonic realm. When suddenly he hears a voice telling him if he already knew that this was the door to the demonic realm. The protagonist begins to look for where the voice was coming from. Then the voice tells him that he was a guardian and only he could hear his voice. The voice tells him that there was a giant monster sealed behind the door. With his current strength he had a 10% chance of passing the challenge. The door opens and the giant monster appears. This monster was the ruler of the demons. Although it was quite old, its attribute points were higher than 20 points. He had a SS rank ability, allowing him to eliminate everything he touched for 10 seconds directly. It did not matter the level or defensive elements. The monster begins to advance rapidly towards the protagonist. It jumps and attacks him. The protagonist dodges the attack at the last second. The monster activates its SS rank ability. He only had to avoid his attacks for 10 seconds. The monster starts to attack, but he dodges its attacks as he had a year of experience from his previous life. He didn't have much room to run away as the arena was too small. The protagonist activates his Soul Strike skill and attacks him. But this ability has no effect on the monster since it was a demon without consciousness. He only had to dodge for 3 more seconds. Just with 1 second left, the monster manages to land a hit. But he survives the attack because the F-rank jade blocked all the damage. The protective jade could nullify damage 10 times, so now he had only 9 left. Now, the ancient demon didn't have his skill activated. The protagonist prepares to attack him. He jumps and attacks the demon, but the demon attacks him back as well. Another time the protective jade took the nullified the damage. Although the ancient demon had a strong defense, but as long as he continued attacking one place, he would have a chance to kill him. He gets hit by the demon once again, and the protective jade took the damage once again. But now there was a little crack in his armor. The protagonist sees the perfect chance to attack. So he takes his sword and attacks the point, killing the demon. After killing the demon, he gets an additional reward. All his wounds gets disappeared, and a little man appears from another dimension. This little man was the voice talking before. His name was Alcada, and he was the guardian of the 195th treasure trove. The big reward treasure troves were protected by guardians. The guardians' regulation explicitly stipulate that they were absolutely not allowed to meet survivors during duty. They only meet if they liked you. The protagonist asks him what is happening to this world, and from where the classes and the magic creatures came from. The guardian tells him that it was confidential information. The protagonist asks him about his ultimate reward. The guardian pulls out a piece of paper from another dimension and gives it to the protagonist. This paper was the first chapter of the Black Book, so its abilities were greatly weakened. When enough soul power was absorbed, the spell recorded in the Black Book and would take effects, reducing the speed, the power, and the defense of all surrounding creatures by 10%. With a duration of 10 minutes and with a radius of 100 meters around the user. He wonders where he could get the other fragments. Alcada tells him that he could kill the ancient demon clan to prove his strength. He had placed him second in the human sequence. The protagonist asks him what was the purpose of this sequence and its benefits. Alcada replied that the sequence was a list of the most promising humans and had been created by the master, and its benefits were that he would get some help and support from the guardian of the treasure land. The protagonist is happy to hear this and turns the paper into a ring. And he decides to return using the portal to see if he could get into the treasure land and get a chance to talk to him. He returns to Earth again. This time his effort had been worth it since he had obtained space rings and space movement scrolls, and he still had some of the protector jade left. When suddenly the captain of the survivors calls him and tells him that he was really strong as he managed to pass the level, and asks him if he needs companions. The protagonist thinks that before they wanted to rob him, and now they were showing weakness to look for an opportunity to attack. So he says no and leaves. The survivors use a portal to get out of the building. One of them tells the others that they had already lost a lot because of the protagonist, and tells them that they should set up an ambush and catch him by surprise. When suddenly the mutant beast appears and attacks him. Now the protagonist returns using the portal. The beast, upon seeing the protagonist, runs to attack him. The survivors try to counterattack the beast, but the beast defeats them because it was much stronger. He wanted to defeat the beast at that instant to prevent it from following him in the future. The beast attacks him, but he manages to dodge the attack and hits him. The beast, taking damage, activates its S-rank ability called Fight Against Death. It was a beast with a strong will to fight, and the more damage it took, the stronger it became. So to check how far its abilities went, he prepares to attack again. So he activates his Soul Strike ability and attacks him. But when attacking, both are repelled. The beast starts to escape, and he thinks that his ability had been effective. For today he let him be free, but next time he was going to finish the beast. For him the most important thing now was to become stronger, so he goes to the exchange pillar to ascend to the second level. But suddenly he begins to hear a loud noise coming from near where he was. He turns around and sees that the beast was running away from Simba. Simba uses his ability and shoots laser beams out of his eyes, but the beast manages to dodge the attack. The protagonist wonders what he was going to do now seeing Simba. His only hope to escape from Simba now was to use the stone pillar, so he heads for the promotion test. Simba prepares to attack again, but it's too late as he had managed to teleport away, leaving Simba and the mutant beast behind. He had narrowly escaped. If he had taken a little longer he would be dead by now. The promotion was the same as in his previous life, in a separate space where no one would bother him. He wondered what he was going to do next because once he got out of the promotion, Simba was going to block his way out of the stone pillar. When suddenly the boss appears and the promotion begins. The boss was a rabbit. As a sequence challenger, his goal was to complete the challenge before 5 minutes. If he failed, he could not participate in the promotion tests for the next 10 days and would be stripped of his human sequence status. The rabbit hops up and prepares to attack, and the time remaining was 3 minutes. He had to defeat the boss quickly as he could not waste much more time. The boss looked like an ordinary rabbit, but he had two very powerful abilities. The first one was an ice arrow. He quickly breaks the arrow as he had promotion experience from his previous life. And his second ability was an E-ranked flying kick. But the protagonist foresees his attack and dodges it, and finally finishes it off with a surprise attack. The tower activates to give him his reward. His soul beast comes out and approaches the pillar. The protagonist's body could only be strengthened with level 2 magic crystals with a maximum of 50 points. But his soul beast had ascended to level 2 and his physical quality had risen to 50 points. And he had also gained a second grade C skill, which allowed him to increase his overall speed by 10%. And now he could sign a second soul with an effectiveness rate of 100%, but the beast had to be the same level as the protagonist. This feeling was familiar to him. He had finally advanced and gained a lot. A message appears saying that he was going to be sent out in 30 seconds. He wonders if Simba will still be out. He had to find a way to survive. And he thinks the beast should be out too, and his ability to get stronger when he takes damage was adequate for this crisis. He comes out of the portal and finds Simba and the beast fighting. The beast had taken a lot of damage and could not continue fighting, so Simba prepares to deliver the final blow. The protagonist saves the beast and runs away from Simba. He tells the beast that they were neighbors and should help each other. Before the apocalypse, he used to feed the stray dog, so he proposes to sign a contract to become his soul beast so they can have a chance to live and help each other. He uses his ability and gets the beast to sign the contract. Simba was very fast, but thanks to his passive ability he had been able to run away. Simba appears in front of him and attacks him. The protagonist uses the space scroll he had just obtained to avoid receiving the attack. He prepares to counterattack and activates his ability called Fatal Fight. In the other part of the park, the survivors had lost one of their men who had been killed by the beast. The survivors wanted to avenge his death. The protagonist manages to lose Simba thanks to his knowledge of the city. He was bleeding and needed to recover first, so he gets into a wooden house and drinks a healing potion. And little by little his wound was closing. He remembers that the beast had a healing ability, so he touches it and activates accelerated healing, and his wound starts to heal faster. He was tired, so he falls asleep. The next day he wakes up and sees that his wound had already healed completely, and the beast was alive and comes to him for petting. The relationship between a soul master and a soul pet was not slavery. Not only did it allow him to use his abilities, but they also developed an emotional connection. When suddenly some zombies break the window and enter the wooden house. This area was a suburb and the zombies were rare. In an instant they are both cornered by the zombies, when suddenly an armored car enters and destroys the wooden house. Seeing that the protagonist was alive, one of them tells him to get in the car as there were many zombies around the area. Seeing that they didn't seem to have malicious intentions, he decides to get into the car. More zombies appear, so they start the car and flee the area. And with a fishing net they catch the zombies. The protagonist had heard of this method in his past life to capture the level 0 zombies. The man tells him that he was capturing them for his fortress people to gain combat experience and points. The man was curious about his pet, so he asks if he could tell him about it. He replies that it was thanks to his hidden profession. He thanks him for taking him in. The man was Sun Ruixing, and he was the head of a small meeting place in the city of Yellen. After several minutes they managed to reach the city of Yellen. It was a city protected from the zombies outside. When they arrive, a lot of people gather around the car. Ruixing tells him that he used to drive a truck, and just when the apocalypse came a lot of people died. so he gathered his neighbors to help each other survive. Today they had to go to the city center to check the situation and see if the city officials had jobs. But there were a lot of zombies on the road, so they were forced to retreat. So when they saw that the protagonist was from the city, they asked him what the situation was. People were still thinking about going to the authorities, hoping for official help. The protagonist thinks that waiting for official help was useless, since the first wave of the invasion was going to cause that 20% of the human population was going to be zombified and there will be a lot of mutant beasts. And the demonic disaster was approaching. People were waiting for news about the officials. Ruixing tells everyone that he had taken the professionals out this morning to see what was going on in the city, but the zombies forced them back. But along the way they saved Wenyu, who escaped from the city, so he asks him if he could tell the situation about the city. A man from the crowd tells everyone that the city was much worse than the town of Yellum. He tells everyone that he was lying and that the authorities should have already launched a ransom, and thinks that the protagonist was a fugitive who had broken the law and escaped from the city. The protagonist explains everything he knew about the current situation in the city and tells them that what he was saying was true. It was up to them to believe it or not. But they don't believe him, as they think the authorities would never abandon them, and with all the official bodies of the city and the army, they think the protagonist was lying. Ruixing calms everyone down by telling them that he would return to the city tomorrow to take a look and then give everyone a perfect answer. Behind the crowd were two men talking. The blonde man was Mayor Lai, and he tells the other that the opportunity had come. As soon as Ruixing leaves tomorrow, they were going to take this place. The protagonist sees them and senses that they were going to do something bad. The two men realize this and say that anyone who gets in the way of their plan was going to be mercilessly killed. Ruixing asks him if he could help his brother tomorrow while he went to the city. The protagonist answers yes, but when he returns he will have to leave them because Simba was chasing him, so he wanted to escape as soon as possible. On the outskirts of the city, a rat approaches a plant and bites it. But the plant has conscience, so it traps the rat and takes it underground. Mayor Lai tells the man who was in the crowd earlier that Ruixing wanted to take over the mountains and become the king, ignoring the official laws, and tells Uncle Sun that he should not let this happen. Uncle Sun replies that he was not going to let him succeed in his plan and that he was going to do everything possible tomorrow. So Mayor Lai gives him an incense and tells him to light it as soon as he gets in the car with Ruixing, and he won't have to worry about anything. He was using the old man lying to him using his position as the mayor of the city. When suddenly a guy called Lin who arrives and tells him that tomorrow he will be in charge of the cleaning, and most of the equipment had already been bribed by him, and when the time comes the mayor will come and just incorporate the small camp. The next day arrives and Ruixing and his team leave, leaving a trail of smoke along the way. Ruixing asks Uncle Sun what he was doing. He replies that it was dangerous for them to leave this time, so he had lit an incense and was praying for safety. This trail of incense is attracting the attention of the mutant beasts and zombies in the area, causing them to chase the incense trail. In the city, Mayor Lai meets the survivors of the city with his armed men. He tells everyone that he had come to inform them that he had launched a rescue operation and he was in charge of the rescue work in Yellin City. And the previous villain, Sun Ruixing, for his own selfish interests, deceived the public and tried to take advantage of the disaster to become king, betraying everyone. But one of his men contacted the officers and asked him to come and pick them up and take them back to the official camp, where there was food and drink and no need to worry about zombies and mutant beasts. He asks them if they were willing to go back to the official area. They all answer yes and get ready to leave with the cars that were waiting for them outside. But just then the protagonist comes and tells Mayor Lai that he had promised Ruixing that he would make sure the camp was safe before nightfall. He didn't want to meddle in this matter, so he asks if he can wait until Ruixing returns. Mayor Lai replied that he was a nobody and had no reason to interfere, so he tells his men to get ready to attack him. The protagonist calls his mutant beast and orders him to kill everyone except the leader and those who have not changed class. The beast starts attacking and after a while kills almost everyone. The protagonist approaches Mayor Lai and tells him that in this camp he was in charge. He and his remaining men did not know what to do now, when suddenly one of his men tells him that Ruixing was returning in his car. Ruixing was returning furious. A few hours ago, when they were on their way to the city, one of his men tells him that they were being chased by the mutant beasts and the zombies. Seeing that the city could be in danger, he orders him that they should turn around and go back. He arrives back in the city in his car alone and tells the protagonist that the rest of his companions were dead, and he was still being chased by zombies and mutant beasts. The protagonist's mutant beast starts killing the other beasts. These beasts were not very strong as they were level 1, so he was not going to have any problem fighting them alone. He could suffer a little, but he had his S-rank ability. In this situation, the increase in combat power was very low for S-rank fighters with light injuries, while moderate injuries can improve physical quality significantly, so he should be able to maintain 3 times higher physical fitness without compromising his fighting ability. But the second strong healing skill did not match his fighting style and was not very effective. The protagonist, as soon as he got another soul pet with healing effect, wanted to eliminate this ability. His beast manages to wipe out the other mutant beasts that entered the camp. Ruixing thanks him for saving him. He replies that one of his men in charge after he left for the city had betrayed him along with Mayor Lai, who was leading a group of people to annex the camp. Now that he had returned, the protagonist decides to leave. But before he leaves, Ruixing asks him what he should do now. He replies that he now had 2 choices. The first was for him to keep doing what he was doing, but he wasn't going to live much longer than 2 months at his current strength. And the second was for him to merge the camp with Mayor Lai, this being the best option for the camp at the moment, but this option was going to hurt him a lot. Seeing this, Ruixing approaches Mayor Lai and tells him that for the safety of the remaining survivors he would like to merge his troops. Mayor Lai agrees, telling him that this was his purpose from the beginning. The protagonist leaves the camp as at any moment Simba could come back for them. After walking for half an hour, they pass by a road that passes through a farmland to reach the next town. The protagonist sees that something was happening on the way, so he tells his beast to go first to check the area, and if there was any danger he would bring him back immediately. His beast goes out to check the area, and upon reaching the area is trapped by a mutant plant. So the protagonist uses his second soul realm ability and creates a portal to bring him back. He thanks him for his hard work, but suddenly the plant attacks them again. He foresees the move and manages to dodge just in time by cutting off the plant. The plant couldn't attack him because it had a limited range of 10 meters, so he tells his beast to change direction and try again, as there were not many mutant plants, and he should have a chance to find the plant weak point. The beast starts to approach the plants, but they prevent his attack and trap him again. Again, the protagonist uses his ability and brings the beast back with him. The mutant plants were able to move freely underground, rushing to where the creatures rush. Their attacks were limited, but they kept narrowing the circle until the entire city of Yellum was completely engulfed. But he thinks that if there were more people to lure the plants, there might be a chance to escape. At Mayor Lai's camp, Ruixing tells him that his arrangements were inappropriate, as he forced the people to do manual labors such as washing and cooking and even live outside the camp. At this rate, these people will have many complaints about the camp. Mayor Lai responded by telling him that danger was everywhere and now everyone who could fight had to fight, and those who could not fight had to work. This was fair to all. Ruixing leaves, hoping that his method will be effective and he can treat everyone equally. The Mayor Lai had arranged some accidentism to clean up the useless new people added to the camp. Suddenly, one of his men arrives and tells him that the protagonist has returned. Mayor Lai greets him and asks him why he is back. He tells him that he wanted to leave the city but he couldn't. Now no one could leave the city because the city of Yellum was surrounded by a large group of mutant plants that were slowly shrinking, and in a few days were going to invade the city. Mayor Lai asked him if there was any countermeasure against the plants. He replied that as long as there were enough people to attract the attention of the mutant plants, they would all run away together and someone of them might escape. He would go in front and bear most of the pressure, and Mayor Lai just had to follow him and bear a little. And each additional person will spread a few mutant plants. The more people there are, the less pressure he will have at the front. He didn't mind being at the front or the back of the team. It was a better way to lead, and it was easier for some people with fear to accept. The Mayor Lai doubted that what he was saying was true, as the city was so big that not even the zombies could surround it. When suddenly Ruixing arrives in his car and tells him that when he was patrolling outside, he found many mutated plants spreading around the city, forming a siege. They had to leave as soon as possible or else they would all die. So seeing this, Mayor Lai decides to accept the protagonist's plan. He told him that he had more than 300 people and half of them had not changed their profession, so they could use them as bait. He tells Lin Hu to go call all the central staff of the camp to a meeting. 20 minutes later, everyone gathers. Everyone agreed the plan except Ruixing. He tells them he did not agree with the plan as he did not want to sacrifice the old people and children's. The protagonist tells him that there were only 2 choices, either die together or let the weak die. Ruixing leaves, telling them that they were a bunch of cold-blooded executioners. The protagonist tells Mayor Lai to keep an eye on Ruixing. They couldn't afford to let him tell the people about the plan. And on top of that, the zombies and mutated beasts outside were being killed by the mutated plants. Those points were all worthless points, being a waste. Instead of the plants killing the zombies, he wanted to hunt them down to earn points. He asks him if he still had the accessory he used to trick Ruixing the last time he left the city. Mayor Lai replied that he had everything but one thing that had run out, and he got it from the treasure land. So he asked him if he could come with him to the treasure land to see if they could find the last item. The protagonist wanted to get stronger before entering the treasure land, so he goes to an exchange pillar. and he buys one magic crystal without an attribute because he still had a magic crystal from earlier. He uses both crystals and gains 25 attribute points, and now he could enter the treasure land with more security. So he returns to Mayor Lai and sees that the portal was in his room. He tells Mayor Lai that he should go in first since he still didn't trust him. So the first one to enter the portal is Mayor Lai, and the second one is the protagonist. This treasure land consisted of 3 forks in the road, each with a treasure chest at the end and a small number of zombies lurking around. According to the rules, only 1 chest can be opened per person. Mayor Lai had already gone down the left and middle paths but only opened the middle chest. And he did not let more people enter the portal because often in the treasure lands, there were treasures that could increase the strength. So he decides to go to the left passage first since there were no zombies.